Today we're talking about Raging Bull at Six Flags Great America in Gurnee, Illinois. This is the largest coaster there, and up until Goliath's debut, this was widely considered the best coaster in the park. But now I'm pretty sure everyone likes Goliath the best, but you still have this one as the tallest ride in the park. So today I'm going to be giving my full thoughts on it. So a little bit about the history. This is one of only two B&M hyper coasters that feature a pre-drop. The other one being Apollo's Chariot, which was the first B&M hyper coaster, so this was number 2. All the other hyper coasters don't have that dip off the chain lift. So that does kind of make this one unique, but another unique aspect about it is that this is the only hyper twister coaster out there. Most hyper coasters by B&M have an out and back layout. This one is very compact, has lots of twisting turns, and very little airtime, which is why a lot of people consider this the worst B&M hyper out there, and I gotta agree with that. What I love about B&M hypers is the airtime, and this has 2 airtime moments. Here's how bad it is. The first time that I rode this in the back row. So then the second time, I was like, okay, now I gotta ride it in the front row. But I was told by about 10 different people, don't bother with the front row because you don't get any other airtime. The only row that this coaster is good in is the back row. And that's because that is where you get at least some airtime. The rest of the rows apparently suck. So you know that's not a good thing when only one row on this roller coaster is good. So yes, I have only ridden this coaster twice. Both times I did ride in the back row. And I gotta say, it was fun in the back row, but it just kind of makes me worried about how the other rows must have been. It was enjoyable, but still, if that's the best row that is, and that's the best that it can get, you ride Apollo's Chariot in the middle of the train. Apollo's Chariot is still going to be better than Raging Bull in the back row. And I think that goes for pretty much any other hyper coaster. This is definitely a weak ride for a ride of this height and this length. So, that's just kind of me comparing it to the other B&M hypercoasters, but if we want to look at it just standing by itself, not comparing it to anything, yeah, it's fun. I'd probably say it's the second best ride at Great America behind Goliath. It's not that I have a problem with the bank turns, because the turns are fine. I appreciate a good twister coaster. It is just kind of unusual to see a twister coaster of this size. But it's just when I think about how a B&M hypercoaster should be, I think of lots of airtime, and this has maybe 3 moments. You have airtime on the drop, you have airtime on the hill after that first bank turn, and then you have one a little later in the ride. Now, I will say that when it does have airtime, it's not bad airtime at all. It's pretty standard. I wouldn't say it's anything really to shout at. But I just think it's kind of a problem when a B&M hypercoaster is meant to be all about airtime, and yet here you have a coaster that has very little airtime. Frick, the Little Dipper in the same park probably has more airtime than Raging Bull. But okay, enough about the airtime. Let's talk about everything else. Intensity, I think that this does have some levels of intensity to it because it does have lots of those compact motions, especially towards the end of the ride. You're low to the ground, so that does kind of draw in some. I don't feel that it's a short ride. I think that the ride length is actually excellent. It didn't feel short, which it just seems like a lot of these roller coasters being built nowadays are really short rides, so it's nice when you have something very long. And it's always good when you have a coaster that has a high capacity. These B&M hypercoasters really eat people up. This thing can just be dispatching trains all the time, so it's nice that it keeps the line moving. And the final thing that I really like about it is that it is an iconic coaster for this park. People who have Six Flags Great America as their home park, everyone knows about Raging Bull. Even though a lot of people consider Goliath the best coaster there, this is probably still one of the most iconic rides there. And it is really cool to just watch. You can see it from lots of areas of the park, and you can really get some cool shots of this ride. Heck, you go up on the Sky Tower, this thing looks fantastic. So it definitely has some good things about it, but just in general, it is kind of underwhelming when you compare it to the rest of the coasters of the same type. So that's why for its final score, I'm going to give it a 7.5. I think it's fun for what it is. I just feel like Six Flags Great America is kind of missing out. Hypercoasters with an out and back layout naturally are better rides. I think it's cool that we do have something that's kind of unique in that it doesn't follow the typical hypercoaster pattern. But this really is just the B&M version of Titan or Goliath. Which, those two coasters are pretty underwhelming, so naturally, yes, this is better because it's from B&M, but still, it's underwhelming. But I do know people who are big fans of this ride, so let me just preface, I don't hate this roller coaster. If you're a big fan of this ride, that is totally okay, and actually I encourage you all to post your comments below about what you think of Raging Bull. Do you agree with my opinion? Do you disagree? If you disagree, that's totally fine. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who have ridden this coaster way more than I have. I've only been to Six Flags Great America once. So this is just my opinion, take it as you will, but make sure to stay tuned for more coaster reviews coming soon to Coaster Studios. I have plenty more coming, and also you can check out past reviews, which are all available on my channel in a playlist organized by alphabetical order. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys later.